Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Deziel and today I'm showing you the assembling of the arm dress form. Now let's take a look at the 5 pieces. You have first the big piece that goes on top of the arm. You have the under piece. You also have a circle piece that goes at the armhole, another circle piece, a smaller one that goes at the wrist. And you also have the little triangle that will sew on the sleeve head to be able to place it on your mannequin. My pattern for the dress arm form is available in my Etsy boutique. Now when you cut it, you have the choice to do the left arm or the right arm. Here I cut to do the left arm. This is how my pieces are placed. You have the outside curve that goes one next to the other. And for the armhole piece, you're going to see that my double notch underarm point, they're on the same side. And you have another double notch on that large circle, but you're not going to find it on the sleeve itself. You are going to see a single notch that goes with the bottom one, and the second one will match the seam, so the intersection of the 2 seam allowance. Now if we go at the bottom, you're going to see the small circle that also have a double notch to match the double notch that is pretty much at the grain line. And if you look at this piece, you're going to see a single notch a little further. So you have a longer distance and a shorter distance. The shorter distance is going to match with the seam. On the pattern, it says to cut one of each, except for the triangle that you must cut twice. Here I did both in the muslin, but I do suggest that you double it so it'll be stronger and more resistant. You could double it in the same fabric, or you could double it with another fabric. Now before to start the assembling on your fabric, when you decide which side you're sewing, you're going to trace all the construction line. First the grain line, and then you have the bicep line and the elbow line. On the 2 circle piece, I only put the grain line. Then you could place a few pins to hold the 2 layers together, and we're going to stitch all those construction lines. That will be helpful to verify the fall of your garment or to do your draping. And only the triangle piece, you're going to do your stitch on only 1 layer. Now you could see the result of my top stitch, and if you could see that they're very apparent. And my little tip is to double your top thread and to make the stitch longer. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to hold the edge or the contour of each piece by stitching at about 5 millimeters all around, just to be able after to sew them like if it was one single piece. Part of the preparation is going to be to sew that triangle in 2 steps. The first step, we're going to take the right side of the stitch triangle and place the right side of the one that doesn't have the stitch, and you're going to assemble one side with the 1 centimeter seam allowance. When your seam is done, you're going to flip the under piece and you're going to do a tiny under stitch at 1 millimeter from the fold. The second seam of the triangle piece, we're going to fold the under triangle piece over the top one. Then we're going to sew the second seam, and remember to fold the first seam allowance that you did towards the under piece. We're going to turn it inside out, flip the seam allowance in the same direction as the first one, hold the corner and turn it out so you have a nice clean corner. Then you could give a little pressing and stitch down the open side with a stay stitch at 5 millimeters. We're going to start with the longest seam. Place the small piece over the large piece. And first we're going to sew from the top to the first notch. Then we'll leave a space open and we're going to start the second part of the seam at the elbow level, and we're going to sew all the way down. Don't forget to back tack at the beginning and at the end. You're going to press it open, even the area that is not sewn. Then one little point that I almost forget is to do a seam at the sleeve head from one notch to the other. Make that seam with your stitch a little longer than usual, a little less than 1 centimeter. And this seam is going to be to pull the thread a little bit so you could create your ease at the sleeve head. When your pressing will be done on the first seam, you could do the second one from the top to the bottom, and you could press it also open. Now we're ready to assemble the triangle piece to the armhole piece. You're going to place it the top part of the triangle over the top part of the armhole, the center notch at the center notch on top. Remember that at the bottom you have a double notch, and you're going to sew it in 2 steps. First step from the notch to that side, and then when it's done you're going to flip it and sew the other side from the middle all the way to the other end. Now you could see that my sleeve is assembled, so we're now ready for the 2 last seam. We will start with the big one, but before to start, I'm going to ask you to pull the thread on one side or in the other to create the ease, so we could verify the measurement of the armhole to fit with the piece. You'll know when you have enough ease when your seam allowance goes square back inside like that. And of course, it has to be distributed to make sure that you don't create little pleat. Now we could verify to see if we pull the right amount on the sleeve head. To do the ease seam, I said to use the notch as a reference, so you had one on both sides, and they're going to match with the one that you have on your armhole piece. To start the assembling, I did put my sleeve part under since there's the ease to fit in, and I did start at the notch where we start the ease, matching with the round piece. So I started like that, I went towards the sleeve head, and then I continue all around, and when I finish I'm just going to go over for a little while. We're now going to do the last seam on the sewing machine, the little wrist piece to the bottom of the sleeve. It is a small seam, but I think it's the hardest one to do. So before assembling, I suggest you do a little notch in diagonal like that until your stay stitch. You could even cut the thread of your stay stitch. Before to do your little slashing like I just did, I suggest you indicate very clearly the double notch that you have on both pieces. Then we're going to place the piece right side with right side. This time I would pin just at the double notch. Doesn't matter if you want to start with the round piece over or the round piece under. You have to take your time, lift the foot very often, and place both pieces straight for a little while. Then sew a few stitches, maybe just 1 centimeter, and then lift the foot again. Place your 2 pieces so they're together, and you're going to sew at your normal seam allowance. I did sew my little piece to the wrist. And again, I'm going to insist, take your time, lift the foot very often. I said that you could do it on both sides. I tried both, and for me, having the circle over was easier. Now it's time to turn the sleeve, and you do have the opening, so you're going to pull it out. Now it's time to fill the sleeve. Here I use a filling that I found. It's a synthetic filling, and I'm going to push it inside until I get the desired effect or the desired thickness. Now when your arm is filled at the right density that you like, we're going to close that arm, and you'll see it's going to be a little bit of magic. First, thread a needle and attach one hand with a knot. Then to hide the knot, you're going to put your needle inside and push it up at the beginning of the opening. Then we're going to start stitching. You bring your pin right at the exact same level on the other side, and you could open your seam allowance. You're going to do your stitch about 3 to 4 millimeter, straight like that on the seam line. Bring it out, and then you go straight on the other side and do the same thing. So push it in and then out 3 to 4 millimeter further. Pull, then you go straight on the other side. Under for 3 to 4 millimeter, push it out, and then again. Just check once in a while to be sure that you're at the same level, and you continue like that for a little while. After you have a few centimeters down, you could fold one seam and gently pull on your thread. And you'll see your seam is going to be closed just like if you had sewn it from the inside. We're going to continue all the way to the end. Once you're finished, pull the thread one more time. Now we're going to do one little knot at the end, maybe two. Put the needle inside, come out a little further, and just cut your thread. The last thing I want to mention is that if you feel that the top part of your arm is too curved or it's too thick, you might want to do a little stitch like I did here to flatten the top part, because if it's too round at the underarm, then your arm is going to lift on the mannequin. Here I already did one. I'm going to do another side now. Just thread your needle and attach both hands on one side, and then you're going to go inside and go through all layers so your needle come out on the other side. And then you do your little stitch. We'll do a little X sign or plus sign. So I'm going to go left this time, go in until it come out on the other side. And then we pull to make it flatter. I'm going to go down and then up. And I pull until I have the right thickness. And again, if you want to do some more to control, you do as many as you need, so your arm fall properly on your mannequin. When you're done, you could just attach your thread with a knot. And then slide inside, pull, and cut the thread. That's it for today. I hope you enjoy. Remember that the pattern for this arm dress form is available in my Etsy boutique, and the two arms that I did while filming this video are going to also be available in my Etsy boutique. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.